Okay, so speaking with Hades here, former Nefarious player and now on my server, T1 Specialist. So can you walk us through what you would do as a T1 trap player, free to play? Let's focus on what troops you would want first, and then we'll get into the other stuff that make those troops work.
Main two troops you want to use is cavalry and archers.
Okay, and how many of them do you want, and what levels?
I would run at least 500,000 to 1 billion T1 cav and archers.
So do you mean total or each?
Yeah, just each. So T1, you'd want to have at least 500 million to 1 billion, and then so on for the layers up above.
Okay, and then when you start to build those troops up higher, like obviously you're going to have some layers from T2 to let's say T10 or T11. What sort of numbers are you looking for?
I'd do half of what you have for T1 for T2, and then at least have 1 to 10 million for each from T3 and up to 11.
Okay, and then at the high level, what would you have? Would you keep those basically at a level that you can ghost, or are they certain specific troops? I've seen some players who they have only ground and archers, so they're not leaving siege and horse, which are easy points for people.
Yeah, when it comes to free-to-play T1 trap, I would not make a lot of ground, only enough to have a little bit of layers, like 10,000 or 10,000. And same with siege, you don't want to have too much because then, let's say if you got hit in SBS, you'd lose a lot of points and they'd get a lot off of it if you had the same amount of layers as you did for cavalry or archers.
Okay, and then is there any truth to or any possibility to have some troops up high that you would ghost or that you would use to kind of bait the enemy?
Yes, I would do that. I would have like a couple million of each. Make sure that you have a big enough march to ghost them all.
And do you recommend showing them or dropping them when they attack? What sort of style do you like to do?
Well, you have to be pretty fast with those fingers to ghost real quick. But I'd show them, like right after the scout, and then ghost. Don't ghost on them because they'll see it. So, like, ghost on monster or a dead keep, or if you're in battlefield, I'd ghost on like a small player, something like that.
Okay, and then these are for solo attacks, right?
Yes.
Is it possible to withstand a rally as a free-to-play T1 player?
With the new troops, T16, T15, it's not possible. I mean, if it's really like a small rally or it's not that good of a team, you could. But one rally and you could lose like all your T1s or half them, and then you go negative. It's not really worth taking a rally.
Yeah. Okay, and then what sort of troops should you have? I always think of the ratio of you should have 100 million T1 troops versus the march size of 1 million. So if someone's sending at you a 5 million march size, you should have at least 500 million T1. Do you agree with some sort of ratio like that?
Yeah. So most people, when they come across like a mounted T1 trap account, they'll attack with ground, and if you have to have flat cav attack really high up. You can't just have just like random gear with like random percentage buffs. It won't work. You have to have like around 8,000 flat cav HP and 8,000 flat cav attack. And what that would do, it will manipulate. You can't really debuff flats. It's not possible. And it will kill off a lot more troops. if you have, let's say, 800 million T1 cav and you have 8,000 cav attack, and someone sends a march of ground at you, you'd kill like 1,000,000 ground.
Okay, so if you have archers and horse in your free-to-play T1 keep, should any of those flat refines go towards archers?
I would not run 2 because that would leave you vulnerable to getting hit with whatever. Let's say like your archers are weaker than your cav. It would just leave your keep a lot weaker to getting hit.
Okay, so you should focus on one troop type is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, now let's get into the debuffs that go along with that and the thought process that how that gets you to that. So you have, let's stick with horse right now. So you have horse T1 and
Yes.
then you're going to run all horse flats. So now
Yep.
what sort of debuff are you going to have? You said people generally attack with ground. So are you going to go with ground debuffs or are you going to go with archer debuffs because archer kill horse?
I'd focus on ground HP. That's the main focus. And then use the rest of your stuff for archer attack and archer HP and defense. Have a mixture of both.
Okay, so when you're doing that, is the thought process horse will kill ground that come in. So then you got to debuff something else?
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean is, so if someone attacks you with ground,
Yep.
your horse are going to fight the ground. So it leaves it allows you to use debuffs elsewhere to fight something else. So like the way I think of it is you could defend 2 attack types, right? Your horse are going to defend against ground. And then your debuff will defend against something else. Or do you think that you should put them both together and be really strong defending against one troop type?
Well, if you know for sure that you'll get hit with ground, I'd focus mainly on ground. Or if you are both and you know that you have like enough subs for your city, let's say you have like 10, then you can have a mixture of them. But if you're free to play and you are low VIP level or just low ranking and you only have like 7, I'd focus on either ground or archers.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, the number of subs that you have. What would be the bare minimum that you would want to have?
I'd say at least 8.
At least 8. Yeah, so I think that means you got to be at least an archduke maybe or a duke. So, yeah, so and it's obviously important to join lots of rallies and get up there. And VIP, is it fair to say that VIP doesn't really matter as long as you have a good ranking for the number of subs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else that you would focus on as a free-to-play T1 trap?
Have a March preset of your layers of your troops that are like a low amount, like your ground. If you have 10,000 in your siege, you want to have a March preset. So if you get hit, you can revive them because it's crucial to have those because when someone sends a March at you, it will attack their layers and leave their big troops vulnerable.
That's a really good point. So maybe even analyze your reports and see what tends to die in the first attack. And then make sure that those are always being revived. Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to ask about was debuff gear on your subs. There's certain ones like the weapon, right? There's the big debate between spear and axe all the time. And then there's certain, like the helmet, I think it has, you could go with mounted or, what's the other one, more archer or ground. Which ones do you recommend on that?
I'd recommend the Fearless helmet and the spear.
So do you go full spear every sub, or do you have a ratio?
If I had 10 subs before on my old account, I believe it was either 9 or 10, and I ratioed more spears over the axe because I know I'd get hit with ground a lot easier. So I ratioed it heavily more towards the ground debuffs.
Okay, and ring, are you going full range attack ring, or are you mixing it up?
Mixing up that too.
Okay, and the other one is, I think it's ground HP, mounted HP. Which, if you're going ground debuff at the T1 trap, do you want all ground debuff generals? So like Darius and...
Yeah, that's what I used when I was a small free-to-play T1 trap. I'd get all the free ones that have ground defense and HP and attack and so on your wall.
Or the multi-purpose ones who just do like 10% debuff against all attack, like Margaret or Harold for defense. Would you use those ones?
Yeah, I used all Heralds.
Yeah, and that's just because ground attack is really hard to find. Like you can get Darius, Constantine, like Amir. Like there's not many out there. All right, that concludes our T1 free-to-play trap guide. Next video, we're going to transition into a little bit of a budget for a T1 player, so tune in. And like, subscribe, leave a comment.